that you should, there. Now, it should be, there we go. If everyone wants to take a seat, we'll get started here. Nice to meet you.
Why I thought.
Hi, John. Oh, yeah, I got plenty of room.
Okay, I'll bring the meeting to order. I'm Dee Kruger from Lincoln Land Community College in here in Taylorville and the Vice President of Christian County Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Adams is not here today. He's out in California with his son, daughter-in-law, and first grandbaby. So we'll excuse him for that, I assume. I would like to introduce a couple people that are new. Well, the first meeting they've attended here. Dr. Bullock is the new president of Lakeland Community College. Welcome. Blaine Cornwell. He is new to us as well. And Mr. Hopper, thank you for joining us today as well. Does everyone have print-off copies of everything that Mary sent out earlier as far as minutes go and the agenda and everything? If anyone needs something. One thing we do want to pass out is corrected June 25th minutes. If you printed them out, you could see they weren't in totality. Okay. And one bit of housekeeping, we're going to pass around our check-in list for today. If you would, just mark that you're here. If you've had a change in phone number or email, please note that. If you have no change, just write no change on there so Mary can keep our records up to date. Pass that around. Matt. There's Matt. I'll give you a minute to look over those minutes that we just passed out. They're transcribed just a bit differently probably than from what you're used to seeing, as we have no official recorder at this time, but Mary's doing a wonderful job with the transcription. We record the minutes, so she's able to transcribe them for us. So thank you, Mary, for doing that. The first item on the agenda is a motion needed for the approval of the minutes of the executive committee meetings in August and September, as well as the full board of directors meeting that was held on June 25th at Lincoln Land in Taylorville. Do I hear a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Lawrence. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion to approve the minutes from the August 21st, September 18th, and June 25th meetings. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Mr. Lawrence, would you like to do your treasurer's report?
I have passed out the basically comparative financial statements for the Economic Development Corporation, which is a comparative statement of revenues and expenditures, and balance sheet that covers our fiscal year ended June 30th, 2013 and 2012.
Excuse me, John. Would you mind trying to speak up a little bit because it won't. Thank you.
I failed to mention that I tend to mumble, so that anybody has any questions and can't hear me, don't feel bad about telling me so. On the balance sheet, as compared to last year at the same time, we had $56,741 in the bank account and no liabilities, as you probably all know, the $31,000 note that we owed Taylorville Development Association was paid off early this year. The balance today, as far as our cash, is up to $71,000. That is basically due to a $21,000 enterprise zone fee that we received from Dominion Energy. The second page is our revenues and expenditures. Probably had the biggest year of our duration. Our donations were $37,500 for the year ended June 30th of 13. We had enterprise zones net of 25% going to the city and the county of $98,553, and over the 2-year period since the inception of that enterprise zone fee, we've basically netted about $107,000. Our expenditures are all routine and listed thereon. Our year ended June 30th was $61,000 in expenses compared to the $65,000 the year before. This is all in line with a $60,000 to $65,000 budget, more or less, that we've had pretty consistently all years. So that we had an excess of receipts over expenditures of $74,784. Our fund balance with the loan that was outstanding last year was a deficit of $18,000, so we ended up basically with a fund balance at June 30th, 2013, $56,741. From there to today, we now have $71,000 in the bank account, and that, like I said, was derived mostly from the enterprise zone fees that we've been having. I believe that covers my report.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Lawrence? Do I hear a motion to approve, Mr. Lawrence?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion to accept the treasurer's report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Mary, would you like to do your director's report?
Yes. Does everyone, I guess everyone has a copy. Okay. I'll start off. I'm not going to give a great deal of detail today, not that there's much to give anyway at this point, unfortunately, but I want to make sure that we don't run out of time here, and there are a lot of other things to talk about on the agenda. Project NIST, which I talked about at the previous board meeting, was a project that DCEO actually brought to us, and it was a company that was going to use corn stalks and to create a biomass product, aftermarket biomass product, most likely pelletized feed for livestock. Don't know much more about it than that, other than the reason we participated for two reasons. The first and most important is for the first time in a very long time we were able to participate thanks to Ken Hart negotiating with the Hoppers the new property that TDA is considering for development. We did include that property as well as the property over by ADM in the site location search. They were considering only 2 counties downstate, Sangamon and Christian. Sangamon elected not to participate, so we were really kind of it in central Illinois. As it turned out, they decided that they wanted to go to Nebraska because at this point, I guess they felt that the quality of corn stalks there was more in keeping with what they were looking for. I was told, though, by the manager at DECA, or at BCEO, I keep saying DECA, that they wanted to keep all of our information because they felt that it was the best information they got from 4 states that they were looking at in terms of completeness and so forth. And they actually said that in the future they're going to reconsider locating more than one operation in Illinois. So the only thing we'll probably have to do if we're part of the search in the future is just update our current information. And at that point, we might even be in better shape because we'll have infrastructure there. So that's something that's in the future, hopefully. The Tenaska project, the property is reverted back to MDL, the original owners. We have no idea at this time. When we went through the site search for Project Mist, I talked to the owners and asked them if they wanted part of that property to be in the search, included in the search, and they said no. They were not ready to market it right now. So I really have no idea what the future holds there, whether they're just going to hold it for a while, whether or not. I think they're working with other people to try and get some other kind of energy-related development there. But I don't know more than that, and I'm likely not to. I will be probably informed on an as-needed basis as far as they're concerned. Moving on to Rhino Energy, there's absolutely no change there, closely tied to the Tenaska project. So if there's an upsurge and another energy-related project there, then I suppose Rhino will pick up. But there's really nothing going on there at all. So, and I don't expect that there will be. Rock Solid Produce, which was the company that took over the Buckley building, I've reported on them several times in the course of the past, since I've been here, 2 years. They, of course, filed for bankruptcy, or actually didn't file for bankruptcy. They were sold. And part of the assets were sold, and then the remaining assets are now on the market with a realtor who markets farm-related material and properties, and they're playing very close to the chest. They do not want us to be involved in marketing the building or anything about it. So I've kind of been told any inquiries I get, I'm supposed to send directly to this person. I personally have not had any inquiries. Apparently, the greenhouse industry, greenhouse industry is very hot commodity, and existing and relatively new greenhouses, especially one that would have the assets that this one has, with the heat exchange process with waste management, would be a very valuable commodity. But for whatever reasons, I don't know what's going on there. I suspect it will be sold, and then they'll call us and want to know what we can do for them. The Ameren Illinois Rivers Project, the meeting that was held in Mowequa, Illinois, I was not able to attend that, but I understand that was basically a property owners meeting, not really, and Ameren really wasn't involved. They are in the situation where they have requested from the Illinois Commerce Commission another hearing on the 30-mile stretch from Pawnee to Pana that was turned down supposedly because they didn't demonstrate cost efficiencies to the extent that they needed to. And so I'm talking to Peggy Ladd, who's in charge of transmission development at Ameren. I said I didn't quite understand why they didn't have uniform cost estimates for the entire line route. And she said, well, really, they did, that really wasn't the issue at all, that it's apparently a group of issues. And she said there are interveners there. And there are a lot of interveners in this particular part of the route. So, of course, they will have their day with the Illinois Commerce Commission as well. No hearing has yet been scheduled, but she said it's probably coming up at some point in the near future. So I'll be staying on top of that. Dominion, I did have a very good retention call on September 17th with CJ Saladino. Everything is going very, very well there, better than I think anyone probably could have hoped for. They've hired people. They've hired 8 people. He said the biggest challenge is finding qualified engineers, and they do that a number of ways. They advertise in newspapers. They use a professional job search organizations, but everyone there, he says, has been extremely pleased with the buyout. And it's all been completed. There's new labor contracts in place. So I'm pretty optimistic about what the future of Dominion is here, and I'm taking my cues solely from him. But things look good. He did tell me something very interesting, which I was not aware of currently anyway. He said that they have those jobs there. The entry-level job starts at $62,000 approximately. So I mean, those are jobs that are just very well paying, and people. There's very little turnover there. They pay. Their benefits are really good. Their health benefits are good. Their 401k benefits are good. These people have an opportunity to get 2 and 3 bonuses in the year, depending upon how their work goes and how they perform. So, to be able to get on there and to be able to have that company in this county is an enormous thing. So we're really happy all of that went well. The other things under the events section are pretty much self-explanatory. We do have, and I really am not at liberty to talk much about this. I'll give you the information I'm aware of at this point. In the last week, I've had 2 site locators call me. One representing a quote-unquote large retailer of women's clothing that is looking at Taylorville, and among the things they wanted were the sales tax coming out of Walmart, which, I'm a little, if you're at the state of Illinois, that's a FOIA request. Obviously, that would be up to Mayor Brotherton whether or not he wants to go ahead and share that information. And also, we would get Walmart's permission before we ever did that. But I've sent him a project profile to fill out. I don't know much more about it than that, and I haven't received it back yet. The next project is kind of what's sort of startling to me. I'm not sure why, but anyway, this was a site locator who is representing a client who manufactures marijuana for medical purposes. And they are very focused in on Taylorville. I'm not quite sure why. Don't know much more about it than that, except that the bulk of our conversation was centered on his assuring me of the state-of-the-art security they had, and so forth and so on. So once again, I sent out a project profile, which is the initial thing we do, and I'm awaiting the return of that. So I'll be able to fill you in more about that once I have those things. Thirdly, there's another company, thanks to Mr. Hopper, that has been brought to our attention, and we're in the process of kind of trying to make a match with those people and a possible location in or around Taylorville. So those things are in the works, and I've shared with you what I know and basically what I can at this point. So that constitutes my report, and if you have any questions, more than happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mary right now? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve her report? And a second? Second. Okay. We've heard the motion to approve her report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. And Mr. Deere, did he sneak in on us?
No, he's gone.
Okay, okay.
George, you,
We have Bob Smith, the president of the Chamber of Commerce. He might give you a little bit of insight of what's going on.
Okay,
Pena, thank you.
Basically, what has been done by me the last probably month and a half is these abandoned buildings we have in our downtown districts, and I don't know whether Taylorville's so much included in this, because you don't have that many downtown buildings that are abandoned.
But the pain it does, plus on the residential area, vacant homes. They're in the tax program where their back taxes being put out to buy or for people to buy the taxes to hold the property. And after 3 years of it, from the way he explained to me, these taxes are out for bid again. And what happens, these people bid on these taxes so much percent, and then they hold them for, I don't know, what, 2 or 3 years or something like that. Then they come up and they have a choice of collecting money that they bid on or take the property. Well, most of them, 98% of these people, they take the money and these properties go back in the tax sales again. So it's kind of a never-ending thing here. The county is end up paying this money for these people that come in and buy these taxes to milk the county is basically what it amounts to. So Jim's done this real deep, and I think down in the near future he's probably going to explain a little more on this thing. But right now, that's why a lot of these dilapidated buildings in these communities, especially in Pana, they just sit there and they deteriorate, and people buying these taxes, they're reaping money off of them, and we're sitting here with a lot of junk buildings that either the city's got to take steps to demolish them and then pay for that, in which we don't have the resources to do that, or they just sit there and accumulate more junk. So that's the only thing that I know that Jim's been really working hard on at this point in time. And here again, I suspect that he'll probably have something that he'll want to bring to the board later on down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the agenda. First, I would like to introduce Mr. Matt Beckley. She just said Buckley one too many times. Mr. Matt Beckley, CPA, who was interviewed by Mr. Adams, Ms. Renner, and Mr. Hart to assume the position of treasurer of Christian County Economic Development Corporation. As we all know, Mr. Lawrence gave notice that he wanted to retire. So we went out and looked for his replacement. Since then, Mr. Lawrence has agreed to stay on through June 30th to help in the transition with Mr. Beckley as we move on into the future. So attached to your email from Mary was a resume from Mr. Beckley. You can see that he holds a Bachelor of Arts in Accountancy from the U of I in Springfield. He is a certified public accountant, and he's currently managing partner at Hickman, Specia, Steiner, and Beckley. He is a board member of the Greater Taylorville Chamber of Commerce and a board member of the Taylorville Open. And what we felt was most important during the interview process is he has a sincere interest in the economic development and workforce in Christian County. So today what I want to ask for you is we would like to take a vote on Mr. Beckley becoming the treasurer of CCEDC, subject to all parties agreeing on a letter of engagement. Once those terms are negotiated and finalized, we'll bring that letter of engagement back to the full board for ratification. Are there any questions about our process? Okay. Do I hear you? Oh, yes.
Matt, do you want to say anything?
No, glad to be here today. Thank you for allowing me
Glad
to be
to have
here.
you.
If anybody's got any questions, I'm glad to sit down. Look forward to helping serve the community.
Thank you. All right. Do I hear a motion to?
So moved.
Okay. Mr. Lawrence. He did that very quickly. I can't even get the words out. I think he does. Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll make that motion with a comment.
Okay.
Mr. Beckley has given us a very brief resume to his credit. He happens to be in a stage of family and career life that most of us have all been through with kids in sports and that type of thing. And as been pointed out in all of our organizations, we do need a little bit on the youth side to carry on the work of the economic development and the growth of Taylorville. Other than that, there's a comedian on TV, I forget his name, CPA type, that always rides on the accountants for carrying a Pentel lead pencil, and Matt didn't bring one today.
Okay. You've heard the motion by Mr. Lawrence, seconded by Ms. Renner. All those in favor of agreeing to have Matt be our treasurer for the future, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. Mr. Hart, would you like to give an update on the status of the development plans of TDA?
The Taylorville Development Association, kind of a little background for everyone, was successful in purchasing 84 acres from Archer Daniels Midland out by their plant on the northeast side of Taylorville 5 years ago. However, we do not have a grant, we do not have funds to develop the plant. The sewer out in that area is at capacity, so there would have to be a new sewer put in. We did a study, and I think it's around $4 or $5 million to develop that property. In the meantime, we looked at 96 acres that is behind Walmart and behind Trinity Dodge on Route 29, and we have negotiated a one-year option to trade our 84 acres for that 96 acres. And Phil Martin has, with Martin Engineering, is here today, and he has some drawings as to what he's kind of proposed, and that will have to go to the Taylorville Development Association Board, which we will be meeting very shortly. And our second step then will be to do some cost studies as to what it would cost us to run utilities, roads, etc., in the new 96 acres. So we have got over the first big hurdle. We have everything signed, and now we are going to let Phil go to work and bring it to our board, and hopefully we'll have some more progress reports for you at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bell, would you like to give an update on Route 29?
I'm happy to report that we have asphalt being laid on the new highway. And I was just on the phone this morning. I'm sorry I'm late. It took a while to get this back from them. There is the first lip, as they call it, being laid 3 inches, and a good portion of the 6.3 miles has that taken care of. They've been putting, if you looked at all the dust, it's limestone to dry out the ground, and they're putting the 3 inches of asphalt on it, and if nothing else, to preserve it during the winter so that they won't have to start over with the base. So they think they can work up through the first part of November. They can actually work on that, laying asphalt until the temperature is even 45 degrees, as long as it's rising. So they've got a little more work. We're going to do an on-site visit the 30th. I just talked to them again about that today. When we have our meeting, they're going to let us go out there. They'll take us out with their safety engineer and show us what work has been done. We're going to go out tentatively at 5:30 that evening, so if anybody here is welcome to come with us. And Bill will meet at Jan's restaurant where we always meet, just a little earlier, instead of 5:30. And the reason it took so long getting here, I'm trying to work between him and the gas station owner that owns Illinois Airco, which is Carl Adams. Carl has his office in Quincy. He did not know they were laying asphalt. He was in the process of getting bids to tear down the Mike McKean property, demolish it, and didn't realize they were that far along. So what he wanted to know was, is this the part of the 2 lanes? Because that's what he had looked for. When they start the 2-lane highway that they're going to convert everybody over to, take you off the lanes that we're using now, the old 29, and put you on that. Well, when they start building that in earnest, Carl will start building his new gas station. Well, as it comes about, this is just what they told us. 3 inches to preserve the base during the winter and to serve as a table to work off of. When you ordinarily could work maybe for the mud or what have you, they can maybe work off that. So when do they start the 2 lanes? It gets confusing. So when do they start the 2 lanes? I talked to David Brunner. He and his dad own United Contractors Midwest. We've got an excellent relationship. David told me that actually hasn't started, the 2 lanes that you will drive on and be switched to and taken off of Old 29. That won't start until about the middle of next summer. And let's see, yeah, so that'll start the middle of next summer, and then finish up near the end of 2014. So middle of next summer or thereabouts, Carl will start on his new gas station and start getting it built along the way with that. Subway is still on. It's still a go. He's still planning to get that, to put that in the gas station. So that looks good. And looks like that's about it right now. We have a new store in Edinburgh. Finally got a little bit of a grocery store. And I think they might, I've put out the idea that maybe they could move to Carl's building when he abandons it, to give them more room. So our school continues to grow. And for the first time, we got the highest rating you can get for financial status for our school. We're back in the black with about $500,000. Of course, some of that was due to some things we did with taxes, but that's still very good. And we're growing and attracting families, and the highways had a lot to do with that. And the school's our biggest employer, so we want to try to keep that.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for all your hard work on Route 29.
Appreciate that.
You did a
Thank you.
great job on that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we're looking for some recommendations for candidates to fill the vacancies that we currently have on the Board of Directors. If we've attached a list of the Board of Directors, and you can see that some of the vacancies are there's one from utilities, there's probably one in retail or commercial, there are some at-large openings for people that may not fill a category per se, but have a distinct interest in economic development and job creation in Christian County. So what Mary and I would like to ask is if you have anyone you would like to recommend for the Board of Directors, please send her notice, call her, email by December 2nd. Mary and I will serve as the nominating committee and bring recommendations from your selections to the board meeting in December for a vote. Next, we all know that we have settled on 3 goals for Christian County Economic Development Corporation for the 2013-14 year, and those are in your agenda. The first goal is to conduct an annual fundraising effort to support our office operations with a minimum fundraising goal of $65,000. The next goal is marketing Christian County Economic Development Corporation as well as Christian County. And the third is the development and marketing of the Taylorville Business and Industrial Park and the Pana Industrial Park. What we would like to ask is we want more involvement from the board members. If you are willing to serve on a subcommittee, and I believe this is something we haven't done.
I think we did it a couple of years ago when we
Okay.
were going through the change process.
Okay.
Organization.
But if you have a distinct interest in any of these goals and would like to serve on a subcommittee, then please let Mary know. We're thinking the subcommittees may meet once a month to get started, and then maybe not such a time commitment. So if you have an interest and would like to participate, we welcome that. So please let us know. Okay. I think, Mary, is there anything else?
The only thing I would say a couple of things. First of all, I think you kind of inadvertently skipped over just the briefing about the status of the annual meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No problem. I can give it now as well as any other time. We're going to have, it looks like a good-sized crowd today. Probably 90 to 95 people. Someone was asking me how many we usually get at this meeting, and I was saying, I don't think we've ever had less than 70, but I don't think we've ever probably had more than 80. So this is a larger crowd. We did promote this meeting publicly, which we've never done before. And we did so because we wanted, we thought the speakers would be of interest to a lot of people. And so we wanted to give the public an opportunity to come in and hear this. And thanks to the generosity of Dan Rabb, we had a lot of slots here we could have filled. It is a bigger crowd. To be very honest with you, I didn't get the response that I thought I would over all of this. If you didn't hear the publicizing of it, we advertised in the newspaper, the Breeze Courier, about 5 times, I believe, in the business section on Sunday. I did an ad on WTIM that ran, I think, 5, 6, 7 times. The mayor promoted this extensively on all the talking programs on the radio. Patty promoted it greatly whenever she had the opportunity to do it on the radio or at other meetings. So we really tried to bring the crowd in here, and we were to some degree successful. And I think it's going to be a really great presentation today. I've seen Jack give other presentations. I don't know Craig, but I hear wonderful things about him. And Mayor Brotherton said this was one of the best things he ever saw. So for those of you who have any questions about it, I assume we tried to make it pretty clear in what we sent out. But what it is it's developing and sustaining entrepreneurship activities in rural areas, so that you're giving young people who are coming out of school the opportunity to have spent some time in a local business, to understand how business runs, to up their odds of being successful if they want to come home and start their own business, so that they don't feel they have to go to Chicago or someplace else in order to make a decent living and have a family life that they want. So, because this is a far better option in many ways. So we think it's going to get very good reviews, and we're really happy we had such a great turnout at the board meeting today too, which we have. We appreciate that. In addition to that, I just wanted to say to Dr. Bullock, we're really happy to have you here. I don't know if you'd like to stand up or sit down, whatever you want to do, and just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to Lakeland, and I don't know if you're from the area.
Sure. No, I'm not from the area. But I've been with Lakeland College now since July 1st. Still very much a rookie with our communities and getting a chance to understand our communities and meet with community members. One of the reasons that I chose Lakeland is because it is one of the top 10 community colleges in the nation. Many of you are aware, Lakeland is one of 3 community colleges within the state of Illinois that has been twice nominated for the Aspen Award, which is a national award recognizing the top 10% of community colleges. So I've been watching that. When the position opened up, I applied because I knew it was a school that had a strong reputation within the nation, but also within the state of Illinois. We're really excited to be a part of Christian County Economic Development because we feel that the community colleges and Lincoln Land as well are critical to sustaining local economies. We know that 52% of the workforce in the state of Illinois are middle skill jobs. Those jobs that require something above a high school degree but below a baccalaureate degree. And that is one of our primary focuses, is creating that skilled workforce that is needed, whether it's technicians, whether it's healthcare workers. And so we feel strongly that we're a resource to you to ensure that happens. And so we're very happy to be part of that.
Well, we're very happy to have you. Thank you for coming today. And for you and for Mr. Carlin, and probably for Blaine Cornwall as well, because this is your first meeting, isn't it? I'm going to have an orientation, and very brief one, to take probably no longer than a half an hour, just to familiarize you with our process and what we're doing and how things kind of work here. So, and we'll do that at your convenience coming up in the near future.
All right. The next full board meeting is scheduled for December 10th at People's Bank and Trust in Taylorville at 12 o'clock. We'd like to thank People's Bank and Trust for once again sponsoring the December board meeting. The 2014 schedule of full board meetings and executive committee meetings will be distributed at the December board meeting. Yes?
One other thing, I'm sorry.
I know what you're going to say. Go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. We've had some issue with the day in the month that we have our executive committee meetings, which is the third Wednesday. I know Paul Schmitz hasn't been able to hardly make any meetings, and Dan Ernie. And so what we'd like you to think about is, and be ready to maybe make a decision in December, is whether or not if we decide to move that meeting, if it's better for you, if it's the third Tuesday or the third Thursday. We're thinking of changing that. So if you would all be so kind as to look at your calendars and figure that out, because we'd like to give everybody a chance to participate.
Okay, that's fine. All right, if there's no further, do I hear, if there's any further business you want to bring up? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, just a point of interest. We just have a couple seconds here. On Mary's report, you may have noticed that she had a visit with me. I've been contracted and to do some consulting work with Central Illinois, including Christian County, manufacturers to help fill the skill shortage that the whole nation sees. And there's a special program where suppliers such as community colleges as well as other technical suppliers will get reimbursement or get paid these certain individuals to get trained and to go into employers, much more than just maybe a staffing agency that will do a quick test, but we'll give them a more qualified, they call it advanced training. And we're just in the beginning stages of that, but I've met with people here in Christian County, but I also travel a little bit through Central Illinois. So it's hopefully a good thing for all communities and economic development.
They have OJT.
Yeah, OJT, internships paid, where people can actually see what's going on. It's amazing what we've all heard about what factories do. The factories have changed, but there's a lot of young people in their 20s and 30s that don't know what a factory is really like. And that's what the employers are telling us. They have to do all the training and hope that they stay.
Right. Well, I thank you very much for bringing that up, and this will be a very valuable thing for us to hear about as you go on here.
Definitely. Anything else?
Referring to your earlier comment about our minutes, we sorely need a recorder.
Yes.
For both the executive committee and the full board. If you look at those minutes, under the bylaws, I'm supposed to keep track of who's here and who's absent. We use a lot of space and repetitiveness from the standpoint that Mary's report is duplicated in its entirety and it can be put together by reference and attachment.
Right.
That type of thing. A recorder, it's kind of a tough job because it would entail a get to know us period as well as someone that had time to attend a couple of meetings a month. So that I'm throwing it out to basically go along with the suggestion for replacement directors.
Exactly. If you have any suggestions of someone who could fill the recorder spot to type those minutes and keep the attendance, that would be greatly appreciated. Anything else?
Dee,
Yes?
I'd like to especially thank Bill Hopper and the Hopper Foundation for sponsoring the program this afternoon.
Yes. Yes.
That cost us, I think, around $2,500. So,
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Bill,
Yes.
thank you and the Hopper Foundation for that.
Thank you, Ken.
And thanks for doing that.
Any other business? All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. A second?
Second.
Second. Okay. All in favor say yay. Aye. Aye, sorry. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Yay.
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 Where I got
It's
the
over.
yay, I'll never know. Thank you.
Very well done. One of the good times I beat its record.
Did I?
Oh, they're
45
cheap, who
minutes.
cares?
I don't know if they might play these out.
Unfurl them or what? I don't know.
Did everyone sign this?
Have you looked at it?
Yeah.
I tell you what, I've done a lot of land developments. This one was hard.
You said in your comments that
Oh.
it's pretty tough.
It's so choppy. So choppy. IDOT's going to have issues with where we bring that in, so I tried to get that as far back as I could. And we talked in the last meeting about having some kind of commercial up here on the frontage. This was the industrial. It's about 30 or 35 acres. I don't know how many. We got a single user. Yeah. I didn't know. And then this is where it got difficult. You got this draw running right through the middle of it. So I just buffered it. Apartments, then duplexes, and single family, but I don't know.
Well, we'll just.
I would see us selling this part.
I think this will be down the road.
Yeah.
I think right now we're going to be more interested in this and this.
Yeah.
That area.
That's what I think. I think the city's going to make us tie it all together. 104 over to 29.
Probably.
I would say this part here we would sell off.
Yeah. Well, at one time this nursing home had an interest in buying.
Yeah.
This property.
Yeah, this pie in the sky, that doesn't have to be there.
Well, maybe we can go back to Jeff Copley and say,
Yeah.
Jeff, if we get this, are you interested in buying more land west of here or back here? And then I think they just dropped it. But,
the biggest thing really for you guys is, is that enough acreages? And
well, I tell you,
I don't, these will be split up.
We only developed 80 acres in the last 50 years.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's not that we sell something every 10 days. It's every 10 years.
That's 32. And then I don't know, we could either split that up or one user. That's a tough piece of ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything comes down this way. We tried to show what this looks. So those are 5-foot intervals.
Well, John, we need to send out a notice now that we've got that option for TDA board and have Phil come and kind of tell us about this and what the next step is.
I want somebody to shoot holes in this. Take some kind of.
Well, I tell you what, yeah, we do have. We just kept selling all this land off to these places here, and he left us with a strip there that.
It's wide enough. Whoops, sorry.
Yeah.
It's wide enough for a right of way of a road, but I don't know that we want to spend a road. We can't sell this, so I don't know. It all depends on what goes in there. I think we will up here for sure.
We're going to have turn lane up there.
And possibly here.
But if this is just a single user here, then it probably could get by with just.
But it doesn't have to be. We can always divide this if we want to. It's got a lot of options. This is a very choppy piece of ground. And that's what I wanted to say. TDA meeting, I'd like to seriously have people shoot holes in this, tell me what they don't like about it. This is just one man's, and it's a tough piece of ground. I assumed that the city's going to want all this connected. Ideally, I think it'd be separated, but I think the city will want it to be all connected. We'll have to get rezoning, so we'd have to figure out what we want to do there.
That's a big tough thing.
I think as soon as I get a plan that the TDA likes, then I can do what you want me to do with regard to talking to IDOT, finding out what, if anything, I need to do to secure us a permit to access, or we're going to have turn lanes and all that. And then the sanitary sewer, always an issue with the sanitary district. We'll have to give them some type of best guess on a full development, usage of sewer. We do have a sewer run right through the middle, and that's a good thing. That's what we didn't have at the other ground.
Where's the sewer at?
It goes through this draw. I'm not exactly sure where it hooks up, but eventually it's into this draw.
That's a big dream.
I think it comes all the way over to here. Yeah, it does, because that's the sewer that we were going to tap into with the old piece of ground.
Where are you going to propose the access on 29?
Well, I tried to get it back. You know, this is all wooded, and there's a turn lane that you into Walmart. See where it tapers right here, and the taper ends here. So I tried to get it as far back as I could. I don't know what IDOT's going to say about all that. We're probably going to need a turn lane of about a similar distance, and they may make me move it down this way because of that. If we do that, though, I didn't like the amount of ground that was probably going to be left here. It wasn't really deep enough and wide enough for development. So I'm going to try to get this. We'll see what happens. It's a big deal. We may be able to talk to these guys about doing some kind of a joint entrance or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know those people very well.
Where's that?
The Dodge dealer?
Yeah, Jarvis and they're out of Gillespie, not Gillespie. Somewhere west.
This is for the roadways?
Yes, sir. The other thing I don't know is the size of the lots.
Oh yeah. This nice time good because it's all in beans. It'll be harvested.
Well, you know, I took a look at it from this spot.
Here's where the old pony farm was. That's the Hickory Estates is there, and that's the.
Yeah. I did this one.
This is a Lutheran home. Drive line.
Kennedy's old building.
That was right here.
Yeah, I cut a mile of old fence on
I didn't realize there was a lake over there.
No, there's not.
No, there's not.
No. But we could do a lake anywhere in there. We're going to need something for detention somewhere.
Yeah.
Stormwater detention.
Well, it's a start.
Yeah, I definitely want to have a meeting where you guys tell me what you don't like about it, what you do like, and then I'll set sail from there. It's a pretty good deal, I think. Frontage on 29 for more acreage and 104.
And 104.
I think he's been very generous. Don't you think?
Actually, it's a good deal for him too.
Well, they don't want to mess with. They like farmland. But they don't want to mess with developing it.
Oh,
One's
sure.
in California, one in Texas.
Yeah.
See, the other one's better to farm.
Oh yeah.
It's not as choppy and it doesn't have a draw running through the middle of it.
You know, no productive soil.
Is it?
Oh yeah, but you know we're talking about two things. We need
Well,
this.
it's a win-win.
Right. Yeah, it's good for both.
Yeah. So when did you get that deal signed? A month ago?
Well, it was dated the 15th. We had to get a couple of attorneys involved.
I know Fines was involved.
Yeah, well, they Tom Roy. Because Dan Austin, he said, I had a conflict of interest. I said, I do represent the hospital I had, but he said, I was the one that wrote the paper for the Table Development Association, and I'm not going to touch it. I said, get somebody else. He said, I'm loyal to TDA.
Yeah.
So Tom had a couple of changes he wanted in it. Finally, and then Dan Rev, our secretary, and he's been in Hawaii for 2 weeks. So finally just got them all signed too.
Gotcha. And we have 1 year?
1 year
to get all this. That's why sooner the better. Because some of that stuff's going to take a while.
I know, that's why I
The
said.
IDOT part.
At least a year. Yeah, they don't move fast.
No.
Well, I think I'll go upstairs and fix my wife's lunch.
You got to make your own lunches here?
She's on a Jenny Craig diet. Pop in the microwave. They have good food here. So she wants to do that. I don't know if you, my wife fell in with hip on the 24th of September. And that's why I haven't called you to play golf. And she's on demand. We're going to take her home today. So she's still on psychotherapy. So she's been going through a lot of therapy. Oscar's been great. Therapy's really good too. We're lucky to have a facility like this. It's not oh yeah.
But her surgery was over in Springfield?
Yeah.
Hey, what'd you think about the, of course my dad just, I told you he just had the heart thing, but the waiting room during the surgery, I thought it was really nice. And they kept you informed of what was going on. Okay, he's going under the knife right now. He did this right now.
Yeah, it's a busy place.
Memories I had of old.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. It was good. You know, they come and get you, and the surgeon comes out and talks to you.
Yeah.
After we went back for a follow-up visit. This guy was Joseph Williams, orthopedic center of Illinois. And pretty young guy, but he's really nice. Got great bedside manner. We went back Tuesday, and he showed us the X-ray of a new hip. We looked at it, and it's doing just fine.
You know, they've got surgeons coming out of St. Louis. Surgery to Springfield.
Oh, really?
My son Jim had an accident. That surgeon does surgery in St. Louis 4 days a week.
And then you get the full
I got a buddy I just saw him at the Illini game. He was in my fraternity over there. He's a doctor in Chicago. Monday and Friday. Then he goes to Jacksonville Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
A group they call the Fat Boys every year.
That's been awesome.
I met a guy,
Rob Swimmer.
that's how I got
He's got a son. He's a veterinarian.
You're excited.
And all he does, he removes cataracts from dogs' eyes. Makes a ton of money. That's it. That's all he does.
You got to find him.
Yeah.
Bob, right?
That's
I don't see Bob.
It is.
Dog cat.
I never heard of that.
Where do you guys play golf over there?
Here and there.
All over?
There also his wife came up from Puebla, Mexico.
Oh, we try to get together in Florida.
I went down there. The season was
Well, no.
His wife's presentation has got a
I
wonderful
have a brother and sister, and they live Yeah, we met
Yes, it is. She's young, very nice. And,
Yeah, my dad and mom went her there. And we went when I was down visiting a couple of years ago. Some really nice place. Tuscany Reserve. It was owned by some sheep. I like golf.
winter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They belong to Naples Grand down there. If you ever get down there. Mom and Dad belong to Naples Grand Golf Course.
Naples Grand.
Yeah. It's affiliated with that big hotel down there. I can't remember what it is now, Hyatt or something like that. So there people can stay there, but it's also a country club kind of thing for members.
I have one brother that lives down there in Kensington Village,
Yeah.
Pine Ridge Road.
Mom and Dad lived in Kensington the first 2 years they rented.
They own the place there.
That's a good course.
Yeah, yeah.
Their courses, I'm sure there are courses.
You gotta be accurate.
Yeah. Is that the one where the driving range is into the water?
Uh-huh.
Yep. Yeah, I usually make it down to Naples sometime in February for 4 days. Usually play golf with my dad.
We live on a golf course in a gated community, 218 courses. The best courses in that whole area.
How far south or north is Seaboard?
Well, it's about 50 miles north of Lake Okeechobee.
Okay. Yeah.
About, I don't know, it's a crow flies. Orlando's not very far.
Right. Is that where you
I
fly
can drive.
into?
I can drive. Well, I've flown into everywhere.
Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, or Naples?
Punta Gorda.
Yeah, yeah.
Fly to.
Got your bill paid yesterday.
Oh, good.
Today.
Good.
Keep them coming.
I need to get a little feedback, though, from everybody before I go much further.
Well, I told most of the boys, just my impression, just don't compare with I still think there's a way the city could fund that West Sewer all the way to Joe Green Earl Wallers and because Joe Green engineered that sewer 8 to 10 years ago, and we've done it twice. ADM and Economic Development Corporation, paid it for it.
She got a couple years later, she hired me. Yeah, my son, or my daughter, and her son.
Well, when I talk to I'm with the new site, one of my two concerns is what the sanitary district's going to say. Their initial reaction was, we're already at our limit, and we don't know if we can take any more, which is, I keep banging on that drum. That's the biggest deal facing the whole Christian County economics.
Yeah, I have tried to get that across something.
Well, it's not a city issue, it's a sanitary district. Oh, well, yeah, they don't want money. But that's what, as soon as you guys cut me loose, that'll be one of my first calls. We'll meet with them and figure out what exactly the rules are.
Well, they shouldn't have a capacity problem because it's not a big.
I think they're talking about the plant itself. I think they're talking about their ability to treat the waste, not get it there or get out of it. And I don't even know that for a fact, but I think that's what it is. Treating the waste.
The city and the county has just got a big operation.
The way he put it to me was, we're pretty much permitted all the way up to our max level right now. We might be able to go back and do a study, and that'll delay us, probably longer than we want. Do a study and find out how much of what is permitted is actually being used. And find out that number's down there to create room. But I'm predicting that'll be our holdup. Them and I.
Maybe they just cut off the prison.
There you go. That'd be a lot.
Any development out there is not going to be a big part.
I agree. When you look at your current industrial park, especially users that you guys got over the last 10 or 15 years, are there any big water users?
Paper mill,
Yeah, biggest.
What do they do?
filters, make filters. The water process, I think, uses
This guy's.
the next biggest one is the hospital, probably GSI.
All their sewer is run
Get
down.
it for me, and then it was yours. So I said, you know, that's only. Before first of all, that was.
You know, can't remember
You're talking about the ones that have been choking you?
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Esther.
Huh?
Esther.
Yeah, that's right. That's good.
And I think that's,
Well, when they get this big sewer for stormwater, is that going to relieve a lot of the sanitary?
it should.
Because they're combining so many areas.
That's right.
And
Been chipping away at it.
haven't had a, really, spent the whole 10 million while.
Right, I saw it on there and
I don't think we've done an official measurement of it, but most of that east side is much better off having water sewer water. Sanitary would have much more.
probably, because we just,
Well, I got the whole east street of Taylor Road goes down this street.
That's always been the plan with the problem with our TDA deal over here by ADM. That was the choke point. I didn't like the reaction when I said we might be doing this, and the engineer for the sanitary district said, well, plant's almost at capacity, we may have to be re-rated with the EPA. That's the biggest problem.
actually out there, it's the most part, the excavator process, you know.
There's surely, you know, sanitary districts were formed in the 20s and 30s. Had cheap construction costs and sewer, water, and all that type of stuff. Alongside the EPA, and you've got all the background regulations, follow-up, treatment changes. And it's just a vehicle. I'm sure the city don't want to murder it, I don't know, but they ought to find out around the state things still in existence or what's happening to them and how are they operating. I guess we got at least $750,000 a year just for the insurance. And they've got their own retirement. They don't have to city has their own traffic. They don't have any equipment. The city does all their work. They don't.
Really? I didn't know that. Well, don't they have somebody manage the whole thing? Some third-party private company from same group's always done that? They really spend $750 a year on engineering. Wow.
They've got a rate problem. They've got a debt problem.
Do they have a depth tank?
Yeah, they've got, I don't know how much liability, they got I think they said they have to borrow something like $4 million just for the EPA and for the most part,
I don't know. I've been before, but couldn't tell.
no, they have their meeting at 4 o'clock. The time when city people are around and residents. Bob Roberman has been an attorney forever, and now he's turning over to I had a talk with him a year ago. What do I do about it? All I can do is pay.
What do you do for them?
Welcome back. We've had some good scripts.
Who said that? Is that you speaking?
Yeah. No, really, actually. Lowering expenditures,
How are you, sir? Not bad at all.
you know, a 5% property tax allowable every year.
Starting to show up.
I'm not so sure the water department will have it.
Our water department?
I'm gonna hold all the water department. Along my basin of wall,
Oh.
like the water pipe.
Well, I just figure out what but you know, I like to get like
Sort of large line.
you have your own private jet.
But anyway, Did you know Gene Kennedy?
That what? No. No, I'm Springfield. I had an office on the square.
Gene Kennedy, a long
He's a contractor. Because what? Oh, okay.
Well, we got that through the court. Atlanta, Colorado.
Excuse me, can I have your attention? Lunch is out. If we could ask you to start going through the lunch line, you can be served from either side. The plates are right outside the door. So if you just want to form a line going outside the door and coming back in, that's fine. We'd like to get you seated so we can start our program pretty quickly. Thank you very much.
So he was adding on to your house.
Yeah, and he hired, we had two just should let me money because I'm a good man. I tell you, first time I came down, that was on mother of like 30 years of operation. So we finally ended up selling a phone.
Is this Fred?
No, that's a big thing. Fred was an eccentric. An attorney worked for a few years out of law school. And got in trouble with the state because he was working for the state Department of Revenue and not allowing his own income tax. The Hopper family just very happy to Georgia Pacific Fund that bought up the Hopper Fiction. Old Hopper had moved Hopper. How are you? And that was about 1956. Georgia Pacific bought them out. Giving them shares, they wanted to go get them. mean, it was just so Hopper, old Bert, at that time, the Hopper Foundation, which we have all the charitable contributions. And his son Fred, brother Bill,
other than that,
basically bought the U.S. Bank with the money they got from First Trust
I think you got it.
And Fred Hopper was married 3 times and died in 1990, suddenly at 58 years old. Never really worked with his wife. And has these 2 boys. One was in New York, one in California, David and Mark. And I've continued that kind of stuff. The boys were probably actually when they were 3 years old. They've been given Fred Hopper, what he had in the form of BCH, and they brought about they had about 9 tracts of farm ground. They bought the sand pit, and they bought swamp ground down by Morrisonville
For hunting or something? For hunting?
I suppose so. Yeah, they didn't have a lot down there. And Fred called that the CCEDC Corporation. After we got and he bought the sand pit from Gene Kennedy. So then, having all that farm ground in his own corporation, he buys out Gene Kennedy 130 acres for $750,000, which made Gene Kennedy whole again because he back to the AV and still owed the bank $350,000. And that's how the Hopper boys, Fred died in 1990, had a estate that was about 16 and in the final settlement of that estate, his then wife Ruth Hopper got about $2 million. Washington Davis got the Plymouth how they got the farm.
They're not what?
Particularly fond of fair.
Oh. The Hoppers in it? Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I thought.
Because going through their youth and adult, most of their money was tied up with U.S. Bank, First Trust Bank. And Jim Beaver did trust. And those people in this follow the creek, 2 young guys in front. They always continuously look down on them together, and talking about taking care of their money and all that sort of stuff. And devastated with their dad Fred, went on 10 years before he got it out of court. And Fred was married the second wife. Adult boys as well. And
dim the lights when they start? Are they going to show a video?
Well, you know, they told me, they were talking to Melissa, and they told me they're making me do that. So I don't know, apparently they're going to do something. So I'll ask.
Somebody asked her to have a computer set up and stuff. And I see that's an even different computer.
Okay, let me go ask Chad.
Oh, well, no, that's all right.
If he wants to.
And if he's going to show something, then I'll just dim the lights a little bit.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Looks like he's
Are you reading? Are you reading?
I am. I'm here.
How are you today,
Good afternoon, everyone. It is just slightly afternoon. I'm Dee Kruger, the Vice President of the Christian County Economic Development Corporation. And on behalf of all the board of directors of CCEDC, I'd like to welcome you to our annual meeting. We're happy to see so many of you here to hear this exciting presentation that we're about to take part in. First, a few things. We would like to thank the dietary staff at Taylorville Memorial Hospital for our lovely meal that we had. And we'd like to take time to thank President and CEO Dan Rapp for generously offering to have our meeting here today. We would also like to thank Bill Hopper and the Hopper Foundation for sponsoring our program today. And next, I would like to personally thank Mary Graham, Director of Christian County Economic Development Corporation, for her tireless work. I'd like to thank Patty Morgulko and Linda Allen from the Greater Taylorville Chamber of Commerce for their help and assistance in preparing for this meeting. And we wish to acknowledge our gratitude and appreciation to Miller Media and the Breeze Courier for their excellent ongoing support of our work in implementing an effective economic development program in Christian County. And I'm proud to be here today because what a difference makes from our last year's annual meeting. I have the privilege of reporting that our financial position has improved and now is operating in the black. We have retired our debt to the Taylorville Development Association. We were able to improve our financial condition by ratifying our bylaws, requiring all board of directors to contribute $1,000 per year. We currently have 32 active economic development board of directors, and I'd like to ask that they stand to be recognized. We were also able to recognize being in the black due to collecting of enterprise loan certification fees, and also several generous community members who donated and realized the importance of economic development in Christian County. We all had, of course, high hopes for the approval of the Taylorville Energy Center that did not come to fruition. Nevertheless, we know our work must continue. We must continue to look for opportunities to promote job creation in Christian County. During our board meeting that we held this morning, we heard about several potential employers looking at Christian County, so the work goes on and it never stops. First of all, I would like to ask Ken Hart, President of the Taylorville Industrial Association, to share an update on the Taylorville Industrial Park.
Thank you, Dee. Approximately 5 years ago, the Taylorville Development Association, which is a not-for-profit corporation, was able to purchase 84 acres from Archer Daniels Dillon on the northeast corner of the city of Taylorville. After we purchased the land, we did find out that we have problems with the capacity of sewer and other kind of utilities. So currently, we're in the process of hopefully trading that land for some land over on Route 29, which has better access to water, sewer, internet, etc. Phil Martin has started, or Martin Engineering, who is here today, has started his preliminary studies, and we have a signed agreement. So we're going to be taking it step by step, and the next step is to have a board meeting to ratify Mr. Martin's plan and see what our costs are going to be. And we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. So there is exciting news in Christian County, even though we were dealt a blow with the Taylorville Energy Center. Our presentation today, I'm equally excited about it because I am an educator and I do care about Christian County since I lived here all my life. We're excited to have Jack Schultz and Craig Limbaugh as our guest speakers today. Jack, many of you may know, is an entrepreneur and author. He is a past recipient of the Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year for his many accomplishments. Fueled by his passion for rural America, in 2007, his book Boomtown USA, The 7.5 Keys to Big Success in Small Towns, was added to Forbes' list of books to get rich by. I know it's on my bookshelf and I imagine it's on several of yours. Jack is the CEO of Agricel, an industrial development firm that focuses on developing projects and creating jobs in small rural towns such as ours, having completed over 100 projects in 16 different states. Taylorville's own Craig Limbaugh, we'd like to welcome him back to town, is a nationally recognized educator and filmmaker. In more than 30 years of teaching, he has taught every grade, K through 12, and is a recipient of the prestigious Millikan National Educator Award. He has twice been recognized as a finalist for the Illinois Teacher of the Year. His television work has been seen nationally on PBS and the Major League Baseball Network, and has been recognized with multiple awards, including 12 Mid-America Emmy Awards and the Studs Purple Award for contributions to the humanities. As a result of his work with the innovative CEO class that we're here to hear about today in Effingham, he was recently named Teacherpreneur of the Year. Please welcome Jack Schultz and Craig Limbaugh.
Thank you very much. Craig and I are both delighted to be back in Taylorville. I've been coming here for the last 25 years since I first got to know Bill and Marilyn Hopper, and then about 20 years ago started to buy some buildings, industrial buildings in Taylorville, and we own 3 buildings that we lease out to manufacturers here in the community, and have given my Boomtown talk here, I think, several times, so many of you might have seen that. This could be a completely different talk, because I brought back to Taylorville Craig Limbaugh, who was born in this hospital, to Ron and Ann Limbaugh. I think probably many of you in this room know. Craig was also, wasn't mentioned, was the recipient of one of 2 prestigious Hopper scholarships that put him through Eastern. I think full ride was what he told me. And he's also delighted to be back. And as I introduce myself to a number of people, there's his in-laws or his sister-in-law is here, and a number of people that told me they could have told some great stories about Craig, but we're pretty tight-lipped about what those might be. So maybe Craig will share some of those with us, of shenanigans that he did when he was growing up. We are here today to talk about what just might be the greatest generation in the history of the United States, the millennial generation. Those of you who've seen me talk or read my book know of my passion for small town America. And I think today that we are on the cusp of some great things in rural America, primarily because of this youngest generation, the millennial generation. These were the 7.5 keys that we found in about 3 years of research and writing on Boomtown USA. If I was doing the book today, I would make one small change, and that would be to take this 5th key, to encourage an entrepreneurial approach, and I would move it from number 5 up to number 2. Now, the reason I wouldn't move it to number 1 is that if a community doesn't have a can-do attitude, none of those other 6.5 keys really make any difference at all. Kids today see life much different than what you and I see a lot of baby boomers out here in this audience, who got a great education in their hometown, went to college, got a job offer, and if that company said, we're going to move you to Timbuktu, we said, the bag's packed, I'm ready to go. Young people today see life a little bit differently. They don't see this direct progression and then on into retirement. Primarily because of this Great Recession that we went into 2008, where they saw their parents and their grandparents who thought they were on a career track of heading into retirement suddenly had the rug pulled out from under them. Young people today view themselves more as free agents who are going to have these skills, this ability to do what they want to do. They're going to decide where they want to live as a result, and then they'll find the job later. So it's a completely different mindset from the baby boomer generation. And what we've got is if we can connect with these young people when they're in high school or in grade school, is that we've got the opportunity that maybe they see that opportunity as rather than existing someplace else, as existing here in Christian County. And that is really the opportunity that we have today. So who are these millennials? Well, you can see that they were born between the ages, or born between the years of 82 and 2002. How many of those do we have in this room? Stand up, would you please? Stand up. We've got 5 in here. We should have 3 times that many in here. There's one notice I will do. This generation that's standing here in front of you is going to be, you don't have to shake. I'm not going to do anything to you. This generation who's standing here before you is going to be the most entrepreneurial generation in the history of the United States. This generation who is just standing here is already being compared to the generation of the 1880s, a generation that transformed the United States from being a third world country into a world power, something that we have never looked back at as a community or as a country. They have got it in their genes, they've got it in their DNA to start businesses. And what we have got to do is we've got to harness it, to take those entrepreneurial tendencies and to turn them into real businesses to transform our communities. I grew up in agriculture, farming, and in the seed business. And as a seedsman, I know that if you take rich, quality seeds and you plant them in rich, deep soil, because those seeds will eventually produce seeds for generations into the future. But if instead I take that seed and I put it up here on top of this podium, that seed eventually withers and dies. And that is the opportunity that we have in our small towns today, is how to connect with those young people and to bring them back. Almost 80% of young people want to start their own businesses, want to be in control of their own destiny. And let me give you an example of what might have happened to one town, Albuquerque, New Mexico. What if, for just one event that happened, might Albuquerque look like today? This motley group of young people started a business in Albuquerque, ran up a $35,000 legal bill with Bob Poole of the Poole Law Firm. Did not have $35,000 to pay their legal bill, so went to Mr. Poole and said, would you take founder stock in this business of ours? Bob Poole, being a good attorney, said absolutely not. Not only would it be a bad business decision on my part, but it would be unethical. So the young people went to see the head of economic development in Albuquerque and said, have you got any programs for entrepreneurial businesses? Economic development said, no, we don't. You'll have to go see a banker. Went to see one banker, a second banker, a third banker, and none of these bankers could understand what they were conceivably doing, or how they could possibly collateralize what they were doing. So as a last resort, the young man called his father and said, Dad, I need to borrow $35,000 to keep this business of ours afloat. And his dad said, which dads have been saying since time eternal, son, I'll talk to your mother and get back to you in the morning. The next morning he called his son and he said, son, your mom and I talked about it long into the evening. And we have decided to loan you that $35,000 on one condition. One condition. And that is that you move this business you call Microsoft back to your hometown of Seattle. And with that, Bill Gates here on the bottom left and Paul Allen on the bottom right loaded up a U-Haul and moved Microsoft from Albuquerque to Seattle. Can you imagine what Albuquerque, New Mexico would look like today? The tens of thousands of millionaires that have been created that worked at Microsoft, the thousands of businesses that have started up in Seattle as a result of those employees. It's incredible what Albuquerque would look like today. This is also how a group like this on the left turn into that on the right over a 30-year period of time. A little less hair on top, a little more girth around the middle. But it's the same people in the same positions of 30 years ago. And now to talk about these millennials and to give you an inkling of what they are up to, I want to introduce you to someone who many of you are familiar with, who has been involved in education since he first set foot in Mrs. Ford's first grade classroom 50 years ago. And my question to you is, what happened to this cute little kid? Well, as you heard, he turned into a world-renowned filmmaker, educator, and is doing some incredible things to revolutionize my community of Effingham County. So with that, Craig.
I will just say this, if there's anybody here I went to school with, I forgive you. If you were one of the kids who waited for me at the Where's the Junior High, right over there, outside the junior high, about 3 days a week, waiting for me to come out, I forgive you for that. Most of the good things about who I am are reflections of people who show them to me here. So I really have a soft spot, of course, for this place where I grew up. Well, I have been involved in education for a very long time, and I've taught every grade, as Jack said. Not necessarily because I didn't do well and I kept getting moved around. It's because of what I taught, all right? I know some of you are thinking, well, you must have been quite a teacher. So I taught every grade. The kindergartners were my favorites probably at the end, because when you teach kindergarten, it doesn't matter what you do, they're excited. So when they would come into my room and I was teaching music, if I said, you know what we're going to do today? We're going to rub gravel in our hair. Some kid would say, oh, I was hoping we'd do that. It's my favorite thing, I was hoping we'd do that. If you say to a group of kindergarten kids, who knows about nuclear physics? The hands are not just up there like, they got to tell you something. And so you say, all right, John, what do you know about nuclear physics? If you've been around little kids, you know that before they speak, they're doing this. They're tugging and pulling and stuff that's somewhere where it shouldn't be. And, because and you know what else? Because this one, and meanwhile, everybody else is killing each other. And you're going, and I know that you're going to get something here. This is going to be good. Because I saw a puppy. Well, one thing everybody else hears the word puppy, they're all freeze because they're like, oh, now I got stuff to tell you. They're just excited. In first grade, if you say, I've got a problem, who can help me solve it? The hands go up like this. It's just total confidence. Yeah, I can absolutely help you figure this out. By the middle of second grade, this is what they look like. Because somehow by the middle of second grade, they've learned if you make a mistake, it's bad. There is a correct answer. There's a correct question. So when you say to a group of second graders, any questions? They all go like that. And then some kid will come up and say, I don't know what to do. But that's about it. By the high school age, they get this. Yeah, I don't get it. That's what they do. Because somehow it's the teacher's fault that they didn't explain something. But we've done this to our kids, and it's too bad because we turn off that natural curiosity that we have. And then they grow up to be what we call millennials. Now, those of you who are millennials in the room, I don't want you to be offended by this. You happen to be my favorite age group of everybody. But there are some essential truths about you that you need to admit. One is you have sort of a skewed sense of what fairness is. I studied 3 hours for the test. I got a D. Therefore, the test was unfair. Your high school principal is here. It's not unusual now for a kid to get sent to the office and for the parent to call the principal before the kid gets there. Yes, Susie stabbed him in the neck with a fork, but the teacher did not have to embarrass her in front of everybody. And it becomes about that, because that's not fair. And by the way, this is a little off the subject, but you know how you tell the difference between high school boys and high school girls and when they're in trouble. Because a boy can't think quickly. We just don't. So you say, yeah, did you stab her in the neck with a fork? And boys either repeat it or act like they didn't hear it because they can't think. Did I stab him? Sorry, you talking to me? We can't think. We still do it. We're married. We come home and our wife says, did you do? And you go, I'm sorry, are you talking to me? I didn't. If you say to a girl, yeah, did you stab her in the neck with a fork? You go, why do you hate me? And then all of a sudden you're apologizing. I'm sorry, I'm sure you had a good reason. Millennials also have this odd sense of what it means to be responsible. If the project is due Wednesday at noon, they come in and go, yeah, I meant to do that. Thanks. Feels good to be responsible. Where as long as they can explain, well, here's what happened. Okay, then it's exactly the same thing as being done. They really believe these are the same thing. I meant to have it done, and here's why I didn't, and it's done. There's no difference. And it's because we've created these people. They are not entitled, they are well trained. From the first day of kindergarten, every effort gets a reward. I went to a high school cheerleading contest last year. I watched some of my students. Every team got a first place. First place platinum, first place gold, because for Pete's sake, you're all winners. Well, the self-confidence we create when we do that is so brittle that you hire them and they come and say, I don't know, didn't work. What do you want me to do? What, fix it? Well, I spoke to a group of college students about a year ago, and they were assigned to submit questions. Couldn't have been any more obvious if every sheet had said, I was forced to submit these questions. How'd you get your job? What's the best thing about your job? How much money you make in your job? I mean, they're just horrible questions, except for this one. Now, you got to read it. What would you consider to be your debut throughout your accomplishments? Now, that has a question mark, and they're all English words. I have no idea what it means. So I said to the group, I would be happy to answer this if you'd help me understand what it is you want to know. And the kid goes, yeah, I mean, like, what's your motivation? And I said, well, great. That's not what that says. There's nothing close to what that says. He goes, well, that's what I meant. And he's all offended. And I think that's one of the things we've trained them, is that as long as I put words down, you're supposed to understand what I meant. And if we didn't, then it's your problem. All right? When I talk about this class that I teach in a little while, this is what they need help with, is stuff like this. There's a new movement called hackademics. Hackademics is where young people, particularly in technology and graphics, they're responsible for their own learning, skills, and competencies, rather than just getting a college degree. As I travel around the country in the last year, I'm finally starting to come around companies that say, I no longer use the college degree as the divider. I'm looking for, can you do what I want you to do? And I see heads nodding around here, I see people going, yeah, it's hard to hire people sometimes. Sometimes in manufacturing positions, they're hiring 5 people to find one that understands you don't smoke pot right before you take the drug test. So, I see some head nods like, yeah, you take the job, and on Monday you don't show up because you got a court date. Yeah. So they just need help. Well, but they're smart, because, listen, these are right. These are the 5 most essential skills for academics, people who take charge of their own learning. You have to be able to write and communicate. Boy, that is critical, critically important. If you're going to work in technology, you have to understand the language. You have to be able to code, and I totally get that. I totally agree. You have to be able to network both personally and professionally, and I'm in 100% support of that, and kids are really good at this. And you have to have an entrepreneurial approach to things, which I totally get too. I fully support that. Do you know where they kind of need help? That's the top 5 things. Get what I'm saying? There might be a little detail left out here and there where they could use some help. So we can all agree, I think, that these are really the essential life skills that kids need. There is some subject matter in there, like mastering content. That's an important thing. But I would argue, if I go into your bank, I'm not looking for somebody who understands banking. I'm looking for somebody who knows how to use technology, who solves problems, who's continuing to learn, communicates well, does what they say they're going to do. I think the content that kids learn should be an assumption. That's your responsibility, and you better have it, because it's critical that you have it. But it won't make you successful, because the big part is the life skills. And I will tell you that this is the most important time in history that we've ever had for these particular skills.
I talked about the generation of the 1880s. Icons like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, the Wright brothers, that literally invented how we view the world today. They changed things in dramatic ways that changed the trajectory of not just the United States, but the entire world. Young people today are on the cusp of doing the same thing, but the advantage is they're going to be able to do it a lot quicker than what these guys were able to do back then. Here's a graph that we found that shows from 1860 to 2000 of when new technologies were introduced, and this might not be visible from the back, but the telephone, electricity, and radio were introduced all back here, and this is a number of years, starts at 24 to 60, of the number of years that it took for 25% of the population to be able to adapt that. Well, back then it took almost 30, 40 years for those type of technologies to be adapted. You move up here to the mobile phone, it took about 12 years. The internet, 2. So the trajectory is much quicker than what it was back then, and it's only going to get quicker into the future. This is a photograph that I think shows it best. This was at the announcement in Rome of Pope Benedict in 2005. And here is the same spot 8 years later when Pope Francis was announced. You see the difference? We were out in Sedona, Arizona last week, and some old guy in the front row said, yeah, there weren't any nuns in that other picture you showed. You see here, one mobile phone in that picture, and 8 years later, everyone has that. That is what is happening. And it's happening with so many different products, different objects. Those of you who are older in the room remember when a telephone was a place. Today it's a thing. In my house, the phone sat in the living room, and when the phone rang, you were deadly quiet. And if it was a long-distance call, God help you if you talked because it was something important, and it probably was not good news that was coming across. Today, the telephone has moved from being a structured place to a thing that not just is what you talk on, but it's what you get your emails, your text, you have your videos, your music. 83% of young people today sleep with the cell phone on their bedside stand. If there's one thing that they would give up on the cell phone, you know what it is? The ability to talk. They would never give up being able to text, but they would give up the ability to talk on a cell phone. Or how about the typewriter compared to the computer? Those of you who grew up with the typewriter knew that if you got to the end of a line and you didn't know how to hyphenate a word, well, you'd come up with a different word to put in that line. Or God help you, you got to the bottom of the page and made a mistake. Today, the computer, you just enter it all in and it'll even correct itself. You don't have to worry about it. What I see happening today is a paradigm shift happening in economic development. We in economic development are going to spend much less time trying to figure out how to hire or how to bring in the next big thing. And instead, we're going to take more of a three-legged approach. We're still going to have one leg of that, of bringing in or recruiting in new business. But a second leg, even more important than that, is to work with the existing businesses in the community, because that's where most of your job growth is going to come from. But the third leg, this third leg is a new one, is developing and growing our entrepreneurs in our communities. Because it's those entrepreneurs that put down roots that don't just move away when somebody offers them some incentives. And so this is the paradigm shift that's happening in economic development today. This is a study we found that looked at job creation in the United States since the 70s. And this red, and here is 0, you can see that businesses that have been in existence for more than 5 years, for the most part, were shedding jobs during that period of time. A few blips up where they were adding jobs. Virtually all of the job growth that's occurred in the United States in the last 30 years has occurred with new businesses, new entrepreneurial businesses that have grown jobs. And it's these millennial entrepreneurs that Craig and I are studying that are really going to transform communities. Let me give you an example. Nick Graham. Nick Graham was born and raised in Truman, Minnesota, a little town of 1,200 people. When he was 3 years old, his father was killed in a snowmobiling accident. His mother remarried and moved to Iowa. And when Nick was going to be a senior in high school, he decided he wanted to move back home, live with his grandmother, and graduate from the high school that his mother and father had graduated from. Shortly after he moved back to town, the local grocery store closed its doors. Nick Graham said, I don't think people are going to want to drive 20 miles to get their groceries. I'd like to reopen the grocery store. He was an industrious young man who'd saved $10,000 working weekends and summers. But that was not enough to open the grocery store. So he went to see the city council in Truman, Minnesota for a $25,000 loan. And that city council unanimously agreed to lend a 17-year-old kid $25,000 to reopen the grocery store. When Nick Graham showed up late for school, because he was stocking the shelves. The principal kind of looked the other way because he also understood the importance of that grocery store. Well, Nick Graham went on to start a number of other grocery stores in Iowa and Minnesota, and has gone on to do some wonderful things. Craig's got the next story.
This is a girl named Peggy who I met in Cincinnati. Some of you know that I'm a filmmaker, and almost all of my filmmaking work right now is with the Cincinnati Reds doing behind-the-scenes projects. I met Maggie at the ballpark. She's 16. She has a very rare disorder where she does not feel pain or temperature. She's deaf. She's got all kinds of mobility problems. She spent much of her life in and out of hospitals. She won a writing contest sponsored by the Jackie Robinson family, and she impressed a guy named Bud Selig, who happens to be the commissioner of Major League Baseball, so much that he hired her to be a special correspondent for Major League Baseball. So this kid, who's had all these issues in her life, all these limitations, works the World Series, the All-Star Game. She's interviewed all the biggest names in baseball. It's typical, and it's what I love about this generation of kids. She's not focused on the limitations. She's focused on the possibilities and the opportunities. She's found the things she could do, and she's doing that really, really well.
David Orr is a young man that I met several years ago when he was shipping 7 truckloads of product into our warehouse in Effingham. We run a public warehousing operation, and my manager called me and said, "You got to come and meet this kid who's shipping this product into our warehouse." Went and spent about an hour with him and was just amazed at his understanding of how to sell things over the internet and what you could do all over the world from being in Effingham, Illinois. He started a website called Fruper.com where he sold 1 product a day. But as he called it, it was the Fruper Duper deal of the day. I asked him, I said, "David, how could you possibly make money selling 1 product a day on your website?" He said, "Well, it's going to be a great product." He said, "Let me give you an example of what I did." He said, "Last weekend I was cleaning out my parents' garage and basement and attic with all these products I was shipping in here. And so I decided to have a sale." He said, "I gave people a chance to buy a sack of crap for $9.95. He said, "You might get a t-shirt, you might get a television set, you might get iPad accessories, but you were going to spend $9.95 on a mystery gift on my website." Put it up on 6 p.m. on a Friday night and took it down on 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. Now, how many sacks of crap do you think you could sell at $9.95 over a weekend? David Orr sold 1,500. You do the math. I asked him, I said, "David, what's the biggest problem you got with running a business like this?" He said, 2 serious problems, Jim. One is that my mom has to drive me every place I go because I'm only 15 years of age. And 2, the teachers at school don't think much of me sitting in the bathroom trying to do my business on my cell phone during the school day. Well, today, David Orr is a junior at the University of Arizona and was chosen by the University of Arizona to go out and meet the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, because of his entrepreneurial spirit and what he's already done at that school. And so these are some examples of young people that we are studying, that we are looking at from all over the country. And we literally could tell you hundreds of stories of these young people who are starting businesses and are transforming their communities. Because you see, if we don't connect with these young people, as we run the risk of our communities looking like this longer term. As I looked at your statistics before I came up here, you're already rapidly aging in place. Your average age in Christian County is already 10% above the national average. And if you don't do something to bring your young people back to your community, is you run the risk of just slowly aging in place and eventually going over the tipping point. And I've been to communities like that have no possibility of coming back. There's a number of programs that have been started that looks at taking an entrepreneurial approach with young people. And you are privileged today to be able to hear one of your own, Craig Linvall, who has started one of these programs. It's a combination of these different programs on steroids. The best explanation that I have heard of it is that if you've only gone to a county fair, is how do you possibly explain to someone what Disney World is like? My aha moment with this class was when we did a survey of the students had 25 students in this particular class. And we did a survey of the students both before they took the class and after they took it. And one of the questions we asked them is, how many of you think you're going to come back to Effingham County after college? Before they took the class, 3. 3 of 25 said, I think I might come back to Effingham County. But after they took the class, connected with people in the community, we did that same survey. And instead of 3, we had 21 of the 25 that said, I think I'm coming back here to my hometown after college. And to explain it to you, I brought back to Taylorville Mr. Walt Disney.
So, I don't usually say this, but I want you to know that this that I'm about to talk about is the culmination of my whole life's work. And it reflects these wonderful things that I learned by watching here. So it has its roots in the things that I learned here. Some of the great educators who showed me how to connect with young people, how to really care about them, how to establish the kind of relationships that really impact lives. I didn't invent any of this. It's just a reflection of the wonderful people who showed me. I love this girl right here. She told me last year, before I took this class, I could never have imagined myself here. Now it's difficult for me to imagine myself anywhere else. I brought Alyssa with me today. She's hanging with me today. She's a former student in the CEO program. She and I just had that conversation today, that there are opportunities in this world that will allow her to come back home. It's the first time in history where it doesn't really matter where you are for most things. You can do it anywhere you want. The program is called CEO, Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities. It was named that by our first group of students. Before that, it was called the Effingham County Entrepreneurship something. It was too long and too complicated, so CEO seemed a pretty easy thing, and the kids came up with that themselves. All we really do in the class is this. People who are not entrepreneurial thinkers, if you'll envision this as a curtain that's drawn almost all the way closed, that's how non-entrepreneurial thinkers view the world. It's how most kids see the world. If it doesn't cross between where I am and where I think I want to be, it has no relevance. It doesn't exist. How many times do you hear your kids say, why do I have to know this? They're going to test me on it. Why do I have to know it? So knowledge and information is something that has an immediate need for a grade or a test or a quiz, and then they go, I don't need that anymore. Well, let me tell you something. The light bulb was not invented by someone who was trying to improve the candle. That was not the goal. It was a completely different thing. It was a disruptive technology. So all we really do is this. The guy who, and I realize it wasn't one guy, but the guy who invented the iPhone was not trying to make the phone more efficient. He was the guy that said, wait a minute, can't you see all the possibilities here? The people who are looking to make a more efficient phone say, no, absolutely, I do not see any of that. That's what we really want our kids to see, is exciting stuff to do and learn and experience everywhere. That's what we want them to see. So what is this class? We all recognize that we need to connect with our young people. Everybody realizes that. You know where the disconnect is? I don't know how to do it. What do we do? Do we establish a place, a thing? What do we do to connect with them? Here's how we did it. The class is funded by investors, not by the schools. So business investors pay for this class, and they pay for it at $1,000 a year per investor. That means you've got buy-in from multiple people, both personally and financially, to make it work. The class never meets in school. It always meets in a business. In our home class, our original class in Effingham, there are 6 school districts that feed in. I'm happy to tell you there's probably 5 different school districts in that photograph. And if you meet Alyssa, you know they're not all smart kids. I mean, I know, that's not much of a laugh, because evidently you talked to quite a few of them. They're like, oh, I know she's not that bright, but I wouldn't have said it out loud then. We do have a wide variety of kids who get in. Alyssa happens to be one of the smart ones. Yeah, Jack maybe not. So they get 2 high school credits. The class starts at 7:30 in the morning every day. The kids dress up. They drive to where we meet. Some of these kids drive a half hour to get to class. And so, you know, they're high school kids. It's early, so we don't typically start on time. It's usually about 7:15 that the class starts. Because at 10 after 7, they're all there. And parents will say to me, this is the same kid I had to use a taser on last year to get him out of bed. And now at 20 to 7, they're dressed up and out the door. It's amazing. When you put kids in the right kind of environment, learning is a pretty cool thing. During the course of the year, they run a class business together. Now, our kids have done various kinds of things. Last year, it was a half-day business conference called the CEO Experience. real money, real risk. The kids do everything. So they do the contracting, they do the planning, they do the marketing, they do the selling, everything. You can't, if you own your own business, you realize you cannot get a D on your business. You just can't. So when they talk about this thing, there's $8,000 in expenses. If you get a D, what you do is you owe $8,000 to somebody. So it becomes about much more urgent things than just, what do I have to do for this? They ended up making about 15 grand on that, by the way. They each start their own businesses, real businesses, viable businesses. I'll tell you about a few of them in a minute, but you're going to go, wow, I didn't know kids could do stuff like this. They write 2 or 3 business plans during the course of the year, not for the document, but for the process of formulating a good idea, doing good research, asking good questions, projecting what might happen, and then communicating that. It's so critical. Of the problems you're going to deal with this week, what percentage are going to be poor communication, improper communication, lack of communication? 95%? If we could just teach the kids that one thing, look how we would impact the world. Twice a year, they're going to sit down with bankers and investors, and they're going to present their plans one-on-one. It's not a competition. It's not for a grade. It's for a business they're going to run. So it's important they do it right. Last year in Effingham, that's it. Walk away. Walk away. Don't make me come back there. You got to know better than to get up when there's a teacher in the front of the room, because they just can't help it. They visited 71 area businesses last year in our home class. That means of every size, shape, kind. They have a pretty good idea of how lots of kinds of businesses run. And sometimes we parallel them. They've been to a hog farm, and a grain farm, and FS, and a corner grocery store, and a big grocery store, and a franchise restaurant, and a high-end restaurant, and a family restaurant. They've been through the whole chain of how the food system works, for instance. And that's what I love, is that they know these things when they get out. Our students in Effingham last year listened to 140 guest speakers who talked about everything you can imagine, from personal philosophy, business philosophy, marketing, overseas stuff, everything you can imagine. And if you can see this, I want you to know that this is how our kids look when they're learning, because they're engaged. How cool is it to see high school kids that look like that when they're learning? They each get a mentor from the business community. Now, for some of them, it's the start of a lifelong friendship. For some of them, it's just probably a professional relationship for the year. But we're getting our hooks into them. We're giving them a reason to think about home in a different way. Kids are not stupid. They're just ignorant. Ignorant means you lack information. Stupidity means you are ignorant on purpose. It's a completely different thing. Kids just don't know. They tell me all the time. I've driven by here my whole life. I had no idea what was going on in there. Well, then we have stuff for our alums. We have an anonymously funded angel investor fund. $100,000 if you graduated from our class, 2 years of college, and come back there for your business idea. That's what happens when you create this environment. We have social events for our alums and all that kind of stuff, and I hang out with them a lot. We maintain our friendships. And then we started an internship program where 8 or 10 of our CEO students take internships with local companies, 10-week paid internships. Great for the company, great for the kids. We've already had kids hired into those companies after their internships. At the end of the year, we have a trade show. And you can see it looks like a trade show, not like a science fair. And it's not pretend. Kids are selling stuff, selling their services. Last year, they sold over $5,000 worth of stuff at their trade show. And you see businesses like Michael's called No Homework, KNOW. So the teacher goes to this website, enters in the homework, it texts it to all of the students and their parents. So you eliminate, I see the teachers go, you eliminate the, oh, I didn't know I was in this class. I didn't know anything about any of this. You eliminate that argument. The only thing he didn't, he left a bunch of money on the table by not having like a $30 opt-out, you know, where the kids could say, my parents won't get the text if I pay a little extra. He has morphed this into something called Send Your Deal, which is for companies. It's the same thing for businesses. Lexi wrote a book about her experience in the class. I love this photograph because that's the day she figured out what the cover was going to look like. She wrote a book about this. She sold out the first edition. She's done a bunch of marketing for people that she's met through the course of this. And this summer, she started a new business called AT Avenue. This is her clothing, her models. She buys clothing wholesale and then does trunk shows. She's having a very challenging time balancing college and this business. She spoke with me yesterday up in the Quad Cities. And she had to get home because she had a whole shipment of stuff coming in. She had to get it all sorted out before she had a trunk show tomorrow. Doing very, very good things with her life. Brandon had a business called Him and Outdoors, and this here is called the Man Closet. And you put your hunting stuff in. I know it's a shock, but I'm not really like a hunter guy. So the idea is that the scent stays, the smell either stays in or out of the closet. I don't know, it probably depends on your position in the household. You're not getting that? The hunting stuff is supposed to smell like it smells, so you close it up in there and then you keep all your stuff in there. He sold 8 of those for $450 at the trade show. He's got 2 distributors and a manufacturer interested in his product. He's got to put it on hold because he's in college. He can't do all that stuff. This is the kind of thinker that you want to produce in your schools. We had a guy coming talking about private excess capacity. So he buys pretzels, laundry detergent from private label manufacturers and then repackages and sells them. And you know the little gels you put in your dishwasher and they dissolve? He was talking about those. Fast forward a week. We were talking about product design. Now I do a great deal of traveling, and we were talking about hotel shampoo bottles, which are very poorly designed. If you travel, you know what I'm talking about. You can't get them open. The shampoo comes out like a snot bubble. And as soon as you let go, it sucks it all back in the bottle. It's just not a satisfying experience. I can see some of you got little kids too, because you go, yeah, it's like this balloon, and then it's gone. Well, you fast forward, and through that conversation, this kid says, why couldn't you put shampoo in one of those gel caps? You crack it open, you use it, you throw it on the floor, and it dissolves. Now, people like us would say, yeah, somebody ought to do something about that. And then 10 years later go, well, I thought of that a long time ago. He researches how they work. And then he finds out the temperature typically at the head of a shower and the floor of the shower. And then he finds a company overseas that manufactures dissolvable packaging. And then he orders some samples. Then he finds out if you order, they're like little ketchup packets, if you order about 10 of those in a little box and you say, I'd sure like to have these as quick as I can, you get a $102 UPS bill with it. And they call me Elle. He said, Elle, do I have to learn everything this way? I'm like, it's okay. You'll never make that mistake again, and somebody else won't because you did it. That's the way you want your kids to think, where they go, I don't need this today, but I'm sure going to keep it because I might need this information someday. We're not all going to invent iPhones, but that kid is, because that kid sees the possibilities in things. These 2 boys started a company called Vista, where they convert vehicles to run on propane. So they're now doing fleets of semis and forklifts and things like that. This kid over here in this corner sent me an email, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago from college saying, all right, I'm sitting here in Business 101, and I got an email from our European distributor saying, I need you in Germany as fast as you can get here, because you got to teach my staff how to customize these kits. And he's like, how am I supposed to pay attention to the lecture when I got this kind of stuff going on? We want these kids to see home differently, to see opportunity as something that's here, not just by default somewhere else. So how are we doing? Well, in Effingham, we've graduated 110 kids out of this program. 109 of them have gone to college. It's not something we really talk about. It's just what's happened. The one kid who did not go to college went into the Navy to become a Navy SEAL. Pretty sure as a result of some things I showed him in the parking lot. I think when he realized how easy it was to make a guy like me cry and run away, maybe he was interested in that. In the class, there have been about 105 businesses started because some kids work together. About 20 to 25 continue to operate their businesses. About 15 to 20 have started new businesses. I don't care if they continue their business. How much better to learn at 18, I can't make money at this, than to learn it at 38 when you just lost your house and everything you had. In an environment where it's okay to fail, it's okay to realize that this may not work and I got to do something better. Our college kids tell me every day, I didn't realize how far ahead of everybody I was until I started doing these things. Whether it's writing a business plan or managing my time or taking responsibility for what I do, I stand out to my professors because I'm so different from the other kids. There's a great regional bank called Midland States Bank. They now reach from Denver all the way to Chicago. They came to me a couple of years ago and said, do you think we could do this in other places? I said, heck yeah, kids everywhere ought to be doing this. So we have 6 classes in our CEO family right now spread through Illinois and Indiana. Next year we'll start 6 more in Illinois and Indiana and 3 in Minnesota. Everywhere we go, there's more interest in doing this. We have many more opportunities right now than we have the capacity to serve, because it changes everybody when they do it. This girl, Shayna, when I first asked her to just call somebody and invite them to something, she went in the bathroom and threw up. Literally. Guess what her internship was last summer? Cold calling. And she texted me and said, Elle, can you believe what I'm doing? And I absolutely can. Vince wasn't going to go to college. He was going to work in his family's welding shop. Now, because of his work with this fuel conversion, he's going to get an MBA because he feels like that's what he needs in his life. Jessica's family runs a very successful furniture store in Diedrich, which is a population of, what, 700? something like that. She said to me 100 times, I'd love to come back if it was anywhere but here. Now that she's out of college and in not a very satisfying job, she thinks maybe that's where her network of successful people lies, and I think she's going to come back. Edward is a serial entrepreneur. He's done a bunch of different things with his life. Right now he lives in Los Angeles working as an actor and a model. Pretty sure as a result of some stuff that I showed him when I was in class. I'm pretty sure. But he's going to do great in his life because he's got these entrepreneurial skills that he learned in the class. Kevin was a kid that went to school about 10:30 every day. He was about to get expelled from school. He was interested in basketball, not school, in writing about basketball. And so that's what we encouraged him to do. Do you remember when Myers Leonard left the U of I to go pro? That's right after his press conference, and there's Kevin, who walked him through the whole process. Kevin got a college scholarship to be director of basketball operations at a junior college so he could help hire the new coach. He's now in Miami in Ohio studying to be a sports agent. Every time he texts me, he's in a different city doing some basketball thing. He just needed the right environment. School wasn't his thing. I could tell you dozens and dozens of stories because that's pretty much what CEO is, and that's what CEO does.
My challenge to you is to leverage the best resources you have, the people in your community, to connect with the future you want to have, your young people.
And you may say, we don't have kids like this here, but I swear, you're surrounded by them.
And you might not say, we don't have businesses like that that want to connect with young people, but you do.
And millennials can be frustrating, that's for sure, but they're also the best, brightest, most capable people we've ever produced.
And they just might be the salvation of us all. Thanks very much for listening.
So, it goes best if you have a core group of people that involves educators, community leaders, business people, and then the institute is there to help. So we walk through, here's what needs to happen, here's how you do it. Typically I come and speak to get investors wound up. Sometimes I bring students who speak with me. But there's a process that you go through and it takes them out of school. Yes? I'll go very quickly. Here? Yeah, want to?
Yeah, Craig is doing that the whole time. He's setting these classes up. He spends a lot of time in the classes. Some of the things, mistakes that we made as we were doing this, things that we were going to do, so we're very successful classrooms.
I would assume that you need a coordinator, local coordinator.
Well, for the setup process, you need a core group of people. That's all you need for that. The teacher is really almost a facilitator. You know, I would call myself the lead instructor, but not the teacher, because there were 140 people who helped me teach the class.
has to have superb facilitation skills, they have to be self-starter, relationship builder, they have to be an excited learner, they have to be able to interface with all our business people. So your teacher is really the hub of all of what you're talking about. And then the Institute provides counseling and materials and training for the process through same for the teacher, then ongoing mentoring and training. And I continue to produce online materials for the class. We're working on the technology where maybe I can continue to teach for 10 or 15 minutes a week or every other week. So we have an ongoing involvement to make sure that it goes well.
Other questions?
Frustrating.
Isn't it interesting though, before you ask a question, in the middle of second grade, you learn to stop asking questions. I don't care how old you get, when somebody says any questions, you still go, I'm not sure, this may not be a good question. And some of you will come up and ask questions after because you go, maybe I should already know this, or maybe I wasn't listening, or we just never quite get over that, do we? They're usually seniors in high school, depending on the number of schools they draw from, sometimes it's juniors and seniors. That's where I live, mostly. And Jack was actually in on the inception of this. If you just want to hear very quickly, I was co-teaching a filmmaking class at the time at Effingham High School. My co-teacher was Illinois Teacher of the Year. When he was on sabbatical, he took one of our film students to interview Jack. And that kid said, every student in America ought to do what I just did, because I just learned more in a couple hours than I've learned in a very long time. So my teaching partner went back to Jack and said, you know what we ought to do? We ought to have a class where kids just learn how to think. If you fast forward through 2 years of really hard work on behalf of a lot of people to convince everybody this could work, that it was born, we just made it up as we went along.
You know, Father, that teacher, and I went out to see businesses, and we raised $50,000 a year for 3 years. We woke up and things to do it in 3 days. And there's a reason we only take 1,000 from each business or each person, is that nobody has control of the class. And so, for example, this year, a straight A student whose parents were gave $1,000 a year, didn't get into the class, and were very upset. Well, because they only get 1,000, they don't have the choice was made for somebody else, and so nobody has control over the class. And it really helps. I think that was part of the genius of it, is that it gets such broad buy-in from all those businesses that are involved in it.
I would encourage you also as your next step, talk to Alyssa before you go today so you talk with the product of the class, and come to Effingham. Gary's been to class a couple of times and brought a guest speaker with him. It's really hard to explain this. It is like trying to explain Disney World, because we all have this notion of what kids are like, and then you go in this class and you walk away going, I have no idea how to tell people what I just saw. Well, come to Effingham, come to class, and it'll change you forever.
We have visitors in the class virtually every day, and in fact, encourage people from the community to come and we had one person who, in fact, was an individual, we might talk about her, who's been there years.
Matilda was 60-some years old, native of Ghana. She was just kind of lost in her life, and so she asked if she could just come to class. She came to class for almost the whole school year, just because she wanted to learn. I was in the Springfield CEO class this morning, and there was a physician in there, and she said, I hope it's okay that I'm here. I just saw who the guest speaker was, and I just felt like I need to learn. But you'll be transformed and energized by being around kids who are engaged and really want to know what you know.
Yes?
How do you schedule coming to a class? What's the process?
If you have my contact information right here, I can put you in touch with the teacher, and he publishes the schedule every week, and he can work out, when you want to come and how that works and where they're going to be that day. And if I'm in town, I'm happy to meet with you afterwards to walk you through the next steps of what needs to happen.
Craig, can they sign up for that online newsletter?
Yes, actually, if you send me an email at effinghamceo.com there, I can get you on the list where you get a weekly update from the Effingham class. And you see what they did, what they're going to do next week.
It's a great way to see what these kids are interacting with, and where they're going to visit businesses, and who's speaking, and that sort of thing.
And then the MidlandInstitute.com website has a lot of background information about what it is, how it works, some testimonials, some things like that. You're welcome to get that information from there.
That sounds like it's time to wrap it up. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much.
That's what we had very
It's the back part of the car.
Well, it might be, say, it might go for Yeah, I came in well about 5 after. Time to grab my food and go sit in outside.
Yes, I'm an alum.
All right.
We'll give you a break on tuition. How's that?
Weekend, yeah.
I've got better offer. Probably should, but do I want to? No.
That's what I'm saying here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chamber president.
Do I know what? Yes. I understand.
See you later.
Oh, you know, I was told you had $36 million in an account, and remember President Joe had 40 acres, and then you had that park in Denison Park. And they asked me, how come